You're watching BionicDance. Don't run on automatic, instead, please think.
Yeah, it's Pastor Greg Locke here. So many people say to me, well, what you believe is just not logical. Well, ladies and gentlemen, understand something. Faith doesn't have to be logical because God does not work in the realm of the natural. That's what makes him a God of the supernatural.
Since we never actually get to see real-world examples of this, I think it's not so much the supernatural as the secret identity natural. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. And yep, it's that guy who said he could disprove atheism in 39 seconds again, filming, as so many theists seem to do, from inside his car. What's that about anyway?
And I do not bow at the altar of logic. I do not worship at the altar and at the feet of science. I bow to one, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ.
Loyalty is one thing, but it can be misplaced, and when given unconditionally, can be quite destructive of yourself and others. True loyalty is earned and can be lost. Giving one's allegiance without question is zealotry, not loyalty. And neither logic nor science require that you bow to either, but they will function regardless. I'm sure you can say the same thing about your God, but the difference is that the former can be demonstrated.
God doesn't do miracles for skeptics.
Which is the biggest problem with believing in his existence. Tell me, if the subject weren't God, would you believe in it on so very little information?
I don't have to explain creation. I accept creation. I don't have to explain and prove God's existence. I merely accept it by faith.
That's fine for you, but don't you introduce yourself as a pastor? Isn't it your job to convince people to join your church? It sounds to me like you expect people to be already convinced that God is real before they start listening to what you have to say. To me, that sounds like a big old cop-out.
And you say, well, faith doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. That's what makes it faith.
Which doesn't even come close to addressing the objection, which is that if it doesn't make sense, chances are good you should rethink it.
If the God you serve can always be explained logically and placed in a box, then you serve a very small God and you're a miserable individual.
Telling me whether I'm miserable or not? That's a paddling. And what if the God someone serves is the God that actually exists and happens to be box-puttable? I mean, doesn't it seem just a bit of a coinkydink that your God just happens to be this uber-powerful, can-do-anything God? Because that sounds rather more like you're both pumping up your own ego and soothing your insecurities rather than an accurate description of reality. Many religions, far older than Christianity, had pantheons of gods, each of whom had their own specialty, like thunder, the sun, or love. And those folks seemed pretty darn content with the whole thing. They didn't need some uber god that trumped every other god. So tell me, what makes your God real and all those others fake? Or were they real, only your God could beat 'em up? Why should I believe you over anybody else? If you cannot show your God is real, then I can't believe your God is real, or anybody else's.
The God I serve cannot be contained. He cannot be explained. His ways are above our ways. His thoughts are above our thoughts, Isaiah teaches us. And so I don't have to have logic. I believe simply by faith.
Is there any other situation where that would be acceptable? Would you just have faith that the car you bought is a good one, or would you check out the specs first? Would you just have faith that your lawyer will get you acquitted in court, or would you check out their win-loss record and which law school they went to before hiring them? And why don't you believe in any other God by faith? What makes them so much less worthy? This faith of which you speak sounds a lot like a reckless lack of caution, if not outright gullibility.
And by the way, it takes less faith.
Ugh, whenever they start like this, my eyes roll so far I can see the inside of my skull. Oh, hey, look, brains!
It takes less faith for me to believe the Bible than it does for some of you to come up with some hodgepodge that all the intricate details of life just exploded into existence. That, to me, is illogical.
You sound like one of those people who say, global warming, well, take a look at this snowball. Let's not forget, the term Big Bang was originally meant as a metaphor, a figure of speech, creative imagery, and not meant to be taken literally. And even if it were, explosions aren't random. They follow the laws of physics, thermodynamics, gravity, etc., just like everything else. Now, it's true, we don't quite know where the matter for the universe came from exactly, but there is plenty of evidence for what the universe was like up to 10 to the negative 43rd power seconds, which is such an insanely tiny fraction of time that it'd take me ages just to list all the zeros in front of the 1. And looking that up online takes 15 seconds, tops. The only possible way you could not understand the Big Bang at your age and in this day is willful ignorance. But needless to say, it does not take the least bit of faith to be convinced of the theory's veracity. However, you say that there's some sort of magical, all-powerful mega-god out there that you've never seen and only believe in because you believe in it, and believing in that takes less faith. Okay.
But listen, ladies and gentlemen, my God states who he is and what he can do.
No, your book says your God states that. And books have this odd tendency to be written by humans. And humans love writing fiction, you may have noticed. Why should I believe that the God in your book who states what the book says he states is a real God, instead of being a character in some really terrible early fantasy novel that got taken way too seriously?
And whether you like that or not, believe that or not, accept that or not, and curse me for that or not, you can know of a certain fact. Greg Locke believes God by faith.
In that case, Greg Locke, I've got this bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.
Because without faith it's impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must first believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him.
And that doesn't strike you as just a little bit obnoxious? You can't please him unless you believe in him without any good logical reason to do so. Is there anybody else with whom you'd put up with that? You can't get your paycheck unless you do your work without knowing first whether you've actually got a job or if you're just doing someone a favor. Just eat your food. No, you don't get to smell it. You definitely don't get an FDA to make sure it's fresh instead of spoiled. Why does God get this free pass on guarantees?
So keep your science, keep your logic. I'm believing by faith.
And I might have been on your side if by faith you meant the vampire slayer. But clearly you didn't. That's a shame. And I'm out of here. Until next time, fellow space travelers.
So, who wants cake? You have to rate first.